Hello and welcome to my kitchen, another episode of Get Cooking with Ms. Gretchen. I am going to be making a cauliflower leek tart today. This is going to be a rustic style tart without a pie pan, just rolling out the dough, putting it on a cookie sheet, put all the filling in there, fold the dough over the edges and bake. Now you can make this style of tart with so many different things inside of it. But today, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using cauliflower, leeks, also cheese, and thyme. So first thing you always want to do is make sure you have all your ingredients. So this is my cauliflower, which I'm going to be boiling for a few minutes to start that cooking process. So it won't take as long to cook in the oven. I have a leek here, which I'm going to saute. I have my pie dough, which I made earlier. So this is wrapped in cling film. It was actually frozen. I defrosted it and I'll be rolling it out. And some cheese. You can use any cheese you like. This is cheddar. You could use blue cheese, goat cheese, Parmesan cheese, your favorite cheese. Okay, so and a little bit of thyme. And this is fresh thyme. You could use other herbs. Dry thyme is fine. Rosemary might be nice. Depends what the vegetables are that you're using. Okay, so first two steps are to prepare the cauliflower and the leeks. Now on the stove I have a pot of boiling water and I'm going to put salt in. It's always a good idea to salt your cooking water when you're cooking vegetables. It helps them retain the natural salts that are in the vegetables so they don't leach out into the water. It retains their flavor. It also might salt them slightly, but even if you're not trying to salt your vegetables, you just don't want them to lose the natural salts they already have. Another great thing about blanching and cooking this cauliflower in boiling water before putting in the tart is that this is a cauliflower from the garden and it has a few aphids on it, which you may find if you buy an organic cauliflower from the farmer's market or the store. So I'll have a better chance of the aphids coming off in the boiling water. Now cauliflower and broccoli are a great thing for small kids to help prep, and because you can start, you don't necessarily need a knife. You can just break the florets off, right? So cauliflower and broccoli are closed up flower blossoms, and the stems can just be broken off, and those are florets. In fact, it can make a big mess of your chopping board if you chop through all those little blossoms, whereas breaking them from the trunk keeps them kind of tidier. Once you get to the end, you will have this chunk that you can definitely cut up. If you don't have a knife handy, or you're not allowed to use a knife, you could just eat that part raw or compost it. Okay, so another trick for helping get some of the aphids off is to put just a little bit of vinegar in our cooking water. I don't want to put too much because I don't want the cauliflower to taste like vinegar, but I do want these aphids to come off. So, thinking about what flavor, vinegar, I'm just going to put a splash of apple cider vinegar into the water. Okay. So my florets here are all pretty equal in size so that they'll cook evenly. All right, going ahead to put those in the water. And if you have a lot of cauliflower, you could do it in 2 batches so you don't cool your water down all at once too much. And I just want to cook them until they're about fork tender, meaning you can easily pierce the stem with a fork. Okay, I have some previously boiled water here that I'm just going to add in. A lot of the water boiled off while I was getting ready to start this. Okay, I'm just gonna give this chopping board a quick wipe. Any cauliflower or aphid bits off. Cooking, it's always a good idea to wash your hands frequently throughout the process, especially these days. And make sure you regularly change and wash your kitchen towels. Okay, leek. Now this leek has been hanging out in the fridge for a while, so I am going to peel off some of the outer kind of drier layers that feel really papery. I want to get to a layer that feels like it has more moisture in it. And I'm going to go ahead and put my cheese and my dough back in the fridge so they don't warm up. Cheese is much easier to grate when it's cold. When it's a soft cheese like cheddar. Okay, so that should be plenty of layers off. I'm going to cut off just above the roots. Oh, I will move this out of the way so you can see it. Done with my little coffee mocha pot for the morning. It's cool enough to put on the counter now. So, when I'm cutting vegetables or anything lengthwise, I want the vegetable segment to be shorter than my knife. So I'm going to cut this leek about here so that this portion is shorter than my knife. And do another cut there. And this portion, the top of the greens, I could save this for a soup stock, actually. I might do that. But we won't put it in the tart. Okay, one more layer. So now I'm going to use my bridge cut, taking a C shape, flipping it into a little tunnel, a bridge, and hold that leek really firmly and slicing through. Okay. So a leek has many, many layers. You want to try and hold them together. I'm going to cut again with my bridge and cutting this into 3. Now I'm going to turn sideways and using my claw, I'll have my fingers tucked under so my knuckle is next to the knife and cutting. My arm is perpendicular to the knife, slicing through. Now, if your leek is looking all sandy, dirty inside, it's a great idea to put your leek pieces in water. Just submerge them, kind of to rinse them all off. This leek doesn't look like it has any soil in it, so I'm okay. Okay, my chopping board is getting full, so I have plenty of space to work on my chopping board. This also looks like more leek than I need for my tart. So I'm deciding if I want to cut it all up or not. I'm going to check my cauliflower. This does seem, tender. You can easily stab that with a fork. And it's going to continue cooking. Just the heat, residual heat, is going to continue cooking those florets. So I'm going to turn it off. Make sure I have a colander or strainer available, and this pan has a rubberized handle so I can pick it up. If it was hot, I would use an oven mitt. I'm going to take this over to my sink and pour. Now I can set the colander on top of the pot so it doesn't drip all over the kitchen. Okay. So I've got my pan here to saute the leek. One more thing I needed was some extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to heat up my pan. Now, it's a good idea to let your pan heat before you add the oil. And to test if it's hot, you can just hold your hand over the pan. Don't touch the pan, of course, you don't want to burn yourself, but if you can feel the heat radiating off the pan, then you're good to go. Pour in some oil. And again, just wait maybe 30 seconds to let that oil heat up. Then I'm going to put my leeks in. I decided not to cut the rest of the leek now. It would overcrowd the pan. And we don't need that leek right now, so I can put it back in the fridge. Find another recipe for it. So I'm going to stir my leeks around, breaking apart those layers so they can all evenly cook. And now is a great time to add some salt. It's good to add salt at the beginning of the recipe, and you can add it more throughout at the end, but you want to season as you go. Helps create layers of flavor, deeper layers. Okay, I'm going to try to evenly spread these leek pieces around the bottom of the pan. Sorry, that's really loud. And let those cook. Give them a stir once in a while. I can start to smell the leek. That's always a good sign. Your nose is a very important tool in cooking. Can often let you know when something's ready, even behind closed oven doors. But pay attention, because sometimes your nose will let you know that something's burned. And then it's a little too late. Okay. Now that these cauliflower are a little cooler, I'm just going to chop this into a little smaller pieces for the tart. Now that it's initially cooked, we still want roughly even sizes. Nice. Really, really nice. So other things I can do, see a little brown there. Never walk away from your stove when it's on, yeah? Okay, I think this is ready to turn off. You can see that there. Okay, we need our thyme. I'm actually going to see if it will pull off of these twigs. Go straight into our leeks. The heat of the leeks and the oil are going to start pulling the oils out of the thyme and start spreading that flavor even now before everything goes in the oven. Thyme, when it's really young, the twigs are so thin you could eat them, but once it gets woodier, then you don't want the sticks, little twigs in there. So now, this does come from a recipe book, which I will consult before I finish this video for amounts, but as you can see, I have not been measuring anything. Because I've been cooking for so many years, I'm used to doing a lot of eyeballing, but I'll try and get you some amounts so you can measure for the first times you're cooking something. I found this recipe in a harvest cookbook when I was looking for what to do with all the cauliflowers in our garden, and we made this in the kitchen with one of our classes, and everybody loved it. So, okay, we've got our leeks, our cauliflower. It looks like it's time to roll out that pie dough and grate our cheese. We also need to preheat the oven. So I'm going to just get reorganized, so we'll see if you can see my rolling technique, because right now my camera is right where I roll. Be right back. Alright guys, all of this videoing at home has been very good for my kitchen counter. I have to get it all cleaned up for you guys. So you won't be able to see my face in this action once I get rolling, but you should be able to get a good view of my pie dough rolling technique here. I have a pastry mat. And even though you might not have one of these, I'm going to go ahead and use this because it makes cleanup oh so much easier. This is a silicone mat. You can use even just a piece of parchment paper. You don't need anything, but if you have a tiled kitchen counter, you wouldn't want to roll straight on that. I'm going to get some flour out. Okay. So, and the reason I'm rolling on this mat isn't so much for the rolling aspect as it's going to make it a lot easier to pick up my pie dough. Less mess at home. Okay. A little flour on top, and then I'm just going to use this cling film actually on top. Now when I roll, I like to start in the middle and roll out. And it's good to frequently pick up your dough and turn it. Like I don't have as much room as I might at the club to move around my dough. So what that means is I just need to turn my dough. And I actually can come stand down at this end of the counter. Hello. But you might not be able to work on a corner, which is fine. So just checking my dough isn't sticking, because if it is, I won't be able to get it off when I'm done. Now, the great thing about a rustic pie tart is it doesn't really matter how big it is. It's more about the thickness. If I was putting this in a pie pan, I would be making sure it would be big enough to fit and cover the pie tin. Right now, I'm just aiming for a roughly circular shape. Again, starting in the center, rolling towards the edge, checking with my hand where it's thicker, and focusing on that. Now I'm going to want to get this onto a baking sheet before I try to move it with filling inside of it. Now, there's multiple ways to go about moving this. Since I have it on a mat, I could actually pick up the mat and flip it over, but I'll try to show you how to do it without a mat. With your rolling pin, you can roll it onto the pin. Careful as it's coming off. You didn't flip it over for a while, so it is a little bit stuck. Just gently picking that up. You bring it over to the baking sheet, and then you can see I'm rolling it right there. And now my rolling pin is relatively clean. Has a little flour on it. The counter is relatively clean. The baking sheet will be relatively clean. Okay, so our last ingredient that we need to get ready for our tart is the cheese. We need a lot of cheese. Using the large holes on this box grater. The cheese is going to add some great flavor and help just kind of hold the filling together. All right, so that's maybe half a cup of cheese. So where can we assemble this so you can see everything? I'm going to put some of that cheese down, like so. Kind of looks like a pizza right now. Leaving some crust edge because I'm going to fold that over. Now I'm going to put in my filling which is the cauliflower and the leek and the thyme. And this looks like maybe it's a little much. We'll see. I might have to take some cauliflower out and just eat them. Okay, this is cooled down because so I can use my fingers, my clean fingers, just to move this stuff around. Okay, and again, I didn't measure anything, so I think this is an all right amount of filling. Now I'm going to take the edges of the dough and fold them up like this, and you've probably seen kind of rustic looking pies, tarts like this before. Sometimes they're called a galette. Okay, if I wanted to get fancy, I could brush the crust with some egg yolk. I'm not feeling fancy right now. That is our tart. I'm going to check the oven temperature to see if it is ready. I have a thermometer inside my oven because I have a gas oven without any electronic doodads. And it's not ready. I should have turned my oven on sooner. I'm going to keep my tart away from the hot oven while the oven's heating up, and I can do a little more cleanup. I will stick it in the oven, let it bake, and I'll show it to you when it's finished. All right. Time to check on that tart. Oops, sliding around. Okay, so definitely getting a little browning on top. The most important part to check actually is the underside of the tart to see if it looks like it's browning and done. And it does. It's nice and golden. There's not too much color on top, and that's again partly because we didn't brush it with anything. But smells done, looks done. We're gonna call it done.